traditional resting places of Adam and Eve are east of the Nile. East of Jeddah and Jerusalem are the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. In the second millennium before Christ, that part of the world watered by the two rivers was ruled by the Assyrians. They were searching for paradise too, and may have found it in the great gulf where the Tigris and Euphrates empty.
I am Ashurbanipal, king of the Assyrians. My legions are the most powerful on earth. From Mesopotamia, we strike west into Egypt, and south into the Gulf of Araby. There's great wealth in the Gulf, wealth to feed my armies. But there's more. Stories of a place called Dilmun. It's said that no one dies there, and the natives pluck pearls from the ocean like dates from a palm. If there is such a place, it shall be mine.
Into the Gulf, Ashurbanipal sent advance elements of his army. The scouts returned with incredible reports. It seemed there was a land called Dilmun. The inhabitants did pluck pearls from the ocean like dates from a palm. Flowers bloomed, scenting the air with their perfume. The date palms were heavy with fruit. Ashurbanipal's men had never seen such abundance. Everywhere there was greenery, lush and inviting. On a Dilmun seal, a tree flanked by two mysterious figures. The record of Ashurbanipal's expedition gives us one of the earliest indications that Adam and Eve's garden might have existed, might still exist. Thus, the key to finding Eden and the fourth river of Genesis may lie in finding Dilmun, somewhere in the Persian Gulf. To understand the Middle East, one must study the sea. Long before the ancient Phoenicians were probing the Mediterranean from their harbors in modern-day Lebanon, the great ocean gulf separating Arabia from Persia was already alive with commerce. The same tools and techniques that built ancient sailing ships are still in use today. Nautical craftsmanship has been handed down through 100 generations. With little more than a saw and their memories, these men build the sturdy boats that sail the Gulf. From Arabia in the west come ships laden with date wine and spun cotton. From Persian cities in the east, the ships return with exotic vegetables and spices from India. Many nations have claimed the Gulf as their own. One place has seen them all come and move on. Bahrain is a small island off the east coast of Arabia. Its people have enjoyed an influence far beyond their numbers or the size of their homeland. Through Bahrain's seaport at Manama City flows the wealth of the Gulf. The islands have been independent only since 1971. Before that, Bahrain was a British protectorate. Before that, it was Persian. Before that, Portuguese. Many nations have ruled Bahrain, but she has always retained an exotic individuality. Perhaps nowhere else in the Arab world is there a stronger work ethic. The day begins early. By noon, it is too hot to work. Breakfast may be fresh Arab bread. A bitter green coffee is ritually shared by merchants preparing for the day. By 5 a.m., the vegetable market is ready for business. Each vendor is a specialist, selling melon from Egypt, citrus from Lebanon, or lush homegrown produce. The merchants squat in the dust, ready to bargain. It has been this way for thousands of years. Bahrain has a resiliency that allows old and new to exist in harmony. A modern refinery turns Saudi Arabian oil into gasoline. The Bahrainis have little oil themselves. They do have the ability to exploit a good thing when they see it. By being invaluable to bigger, more powerful neighbors, Bahrain assures its unique place in the world. The pulse of the Gulf may well be the rush of oil through pipelines, but oil plays no part in Genesis. Water is the fluid of Eden, nectar of the desert. To keep decorative trees alive under Bahrain's brutal sun, they must be watered daily. Water is Bahrain's secret. The potter's kiln is built into a huge rock mound that may tell much about Bahrain's special relationship with water. There are dozens of the large mounds on the island. Archaeologist P.B. Cornwall was the first to recognize their significance. In 1940, he dug into one of the mounds and discovered that it was a tomb, probably a royal tomb, and probably older than the Great Pyramid at Giza. 5,000 years older than the modern graveyard at its base. There are perhaps 50,000 smaller mounds on the island, most of them long since looted. They tell us that the ancient population of Bahrain was large and affluent, rich enough to accord death a status surpassed only by the pharaohs of Egypt. And they place this lost civilization in the same millennium as the Assyrian domination of the north. When King Ashurbanipal sent his men to find Dilmun, they returned with reports of a civilization that defied death. Near an oasis is the ghost of a much later military expedition. In the 16th century, the Portuguese invaded Bahrain and built a fort to protect their trade route to the Far East. Without realizing it, the invaders were building on the ruins of a civilization that had dominated the same trade routes long before their Portuguese ancestors had ever put to sea. The first major excavation of the site was begun in 1953 by Professor Geoffrey Bibby. It revealed a sophisticated dwelling, complete with what appears to be an altar. More intriguing was the discovery of a limestone basin, which probably held fresh water. The reservoir fed into a walled channel built 20 feet below the surface of the ground, clearly an advanced irrigation system. The underground water supply could be tapped from well-like chimneys constructed along the course of the channel. Bibby thought they probably served the additional function of allowing silt deposits to be removed from the waterway. Dozens of the stone chimneys appear in the desert at intervals of about 100 yards.